Hey you guys, it's Yolanda here, and so I wanted to do a quick video to help show you how I do the ponytail hairstyle for my doll design. If you have the pattern, it's pretty much how you got to this link because it is only available if you have the pattern so that you can understand what I'm talking about. So it was just easier for me to do a video than to try to write all of this out. So basically, to do the ponytail hairstyle, you are going to need a chunky weight yarn. I do use the Yarn Bee Fleece Light. This is what I use. This is comparable to Homespun USA. Comparable to Homespun USA. You are also going to need some scissors as well as now you can either cut these individually, or because you're going to have to cut out strands for your ponytails, you can cut them individually, or you can use something like a CD case cover, a book, something that is going to be about the length of the strands that you want to make. Now for my ponytails, again, you have to think about how long you want them to be. I normally cut strands that are about 15 inches long. That is about what I will get if I use this CD cover the long way. So if I wrap the yarn the long way, they're going to be about each strand will be about 15 inches long. Remember that you are going to use the strands in halves to attach them to the doll's head. So you're not going to be using the whole 15 inches. That's going to be cut in half. So you will have about 7 inches hang time. This will be, for me, it's enough for me to do the ponytail as well as trim a bit of the ponytail at the end so that they're all even. And so again, I'm doing about 15 inches, but again, you need to look at your doll and decide where you want your ponytail to hang or how you want your ponytail to hang, and then you would cut strands in that length. And like I said, you can do single strands, so if you know how long you want your strands to be, so in this instance, like I said, I want mine to be about 15 inches. You can just sit here and cut strands individually. So you can sit here and just cut 15-inch strands. Now to do an entire head, you are going to need about 200 strands, And I will also show you how I put those in so that you can understand why you need about 200 strands. It's actually not a lot. But that's what you would need to fill up an entire head. Now, if you're just doing like 2 ponytails on the side, of course, you wouldn't need so many. This is with me doing 4 ponytails, 2 in the front and 2 in the back. But if you're just doing 2 ponytails on the side, then you probably would only need about maybe 100 strands, half of that. So in any case, like I said, you can just sit here and cut them, but I like using the CD case because, you know, then I get more bang for my buck. And so again, we're wrapping the long way. Again, if you were doing shorter strands, you could definitely wrap the short way and do shorter strands. But because I want my strands to be about 15 inches, I am going to wrap the long way. So and I don't know how many people still have CD cases in their house. I may be one of the few people who still actually have CD cases. But yes, so I'm just going to wrap this. I'm not pulling the yarn super tight because note that this yarn does have a little bit of bounce to it. So I'm not going to pull it super tight, but just wrapping it around here. I'm just going to cover as much as the CD case as I can because like I said, I want to get as many strands as possible out of this without having to do it a whole bunch of times. Of course, my yarn would tangle while I'm doing this. Okay, so that I don't have to do it a whole bunch of times. But this is step 1. So get your strands, like I said, whether you're cutting them individually or you're using like a CD case or a book or something to wrap it around, you need to get about 200 strands. In order for me to get 200, I'm probably going to have to do this maybe 3 times before I have my 200 strands. Maybe 3 times. And then, or maybe 4. We'll see. But first thing first, we're going to go ahead and wrap. Now, I don't want this to be too thick because, again, it is a chunky weight yarn. And I don't want it to be really hard for me to cut this. So I would rather wrap more times and be able to cut it with ease than to have to not be able to cut it really well. So that's going to be enough for me for this one. I'm just going to go ahead and cut and then slip it down here at the middle just so you guys can see what the strands look like. And then, like I said, I will install into the doll's head so you can see that as well. So this is, I have more than this, but this is what I have. This is just to give you an example of what they look like after I cut them off the CD cover. And again, I'm going to use these in half. So when I install them into the doll's head, I will be having these, not cutting them, but just taking them in half and installing them into the doll's head. So this is an example of what her ponytail might look like. And then, like I said, I'll install it into the doll's head so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so now this is what it looks like now that I've gone around the entire outside of her head. Now keep in mind, like I said, I use the wig cap as a grid so that they're kind of all on the same line. I do leave, I didn't want to do it right at her base because these are her baby hairs. So we still want her baby hairs to be laid. So I did kind of come up one row and then just kept it on that row. Also note that it's probably like one stitch in between each of these, again, because I'm keeping in mind if I want to do a part or something like that, where would my part actually need to go? And so there is a space in between here for me to be able to lay the yarn for her part. Now just keep in mind, if you were gonna do, so this works, like I said, if she was gonna do a center part, like this is for ponytail, so if she was gonna do a center part, this would probably be her front two, and then hair in the back to be able to do her back two. So again, using the hair as a grid, we'll probably go here right to her center and then have it parted off again, going around the center again. Now, if you were going to do something like a side ponytail where you wanted to pull all this hair over to like one side or something like that, do keep in mind that you may have to do these strands a bit longer than these strands on this side, so that the ponytail is all the same side. Now we're definitely not going to leave this empty. We are going to fill this in the middle, again just keeping in mind where you might want your parts to be. And so as you're filling them in, like I said, I just keep in mind where my part might be. I do turn the doll upside down to fill them in, but I kind of, like I said, just keep in mind if there was a part here, then I kind of don't want to cover up that center space. And so I'll fill in everything kind of going this way. And again, because this is a chunky weight yarn, we can't use a whole lot of it because then our ponytails are going to be really, really thick. And so my spaces here in the center are going to be a little bit larger. Like I might leave about anywhere from 2 to 3 spaces as I'm filling in this center part, because I do know that this is, like I said, it's a chunky weight yarn, and so we can have a bit more space in between the stitches here. So see, because it's still going to be really full, nice and full, but I'm probably, like I said, just need a bit more space so that I'm actually able to pull this yarn into a nice pretty ponytail. And so I'm just going to go ahead and fill this center in, like I said, leaving about 2 or 3 spaces in between each one, and also keeping in mind where I might want my parts to be. And again, if you're trying to do something like a side ponytail or one big ponytail, then do keep in mind that some of these may actually need to be longer than what you cut initially. I'm doing this with the 4 ponytail hairstyle in mind. And so it's okay for all of mine to kind of be the same length, because the way I'm going to pull them, it's still going to leave me with a nice length for a nice pretty ponytail.